Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are here at Live Oak Cemetery in Selma, Alabama. This is a very historic, older cemetery in the state of Alabama, and I thought no better way to start than under some, moss-covered trees. Nothing says the South like moss-covered trees and magnolias and stuff like that. So I thought, hey, this is a cool place to start the video. We're here to look at a couple of really cool graves. One being a vice president, another being an author, and we're going to see what else that we can come across. And with all that being said, if this is your first time here, hey, welcome. I hope you liked the video. If you do, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, doing all those things. And if this isn't your first time here, hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video. And so let's get to walking, let's get to looking, and let's see what this cemetery has to offer. All right, getting out walking. It looks as though the main road you see up here is used as a cut through, if you can't tell, see? So the first person we're going to visit is the only vice president from the state of Alabama. His name was William Rufus King. He was vice president for about 2 weeks, but we still claim it just because it happened, right? So William Rufus King was educated in private schools and entered the University of North Carolina at the age of 12. In 1816, he was offered the position of Secretary of Legislation to the American Embassy of St. Petersburg, Russia. While in Russia, he was often seen with the princess, and later he resigned because of speculation between him and the princess. He was a delegate to the convention which organized the Alabama state government. Upon the admission of Alabama as the 22nd state in 1819, he was elected by the state legislature as a legislature. Sometimes it's tough to talk. As a Democratic Republican to the United States Senate. So we got to make sure we don't get run over. It looks like somebody, nope, they're not coming this way. All right, good deal. So let's walk over here. And let's look at this real quick before we get to where we're going. Because King was ill with tuberculosis, he had traveled to Cuba in an effort to regain his health. He was not able to be in Washington to take the oath, but by a special act of Congress, he was allowed to take the oath outside the United States and was sworn in on March 24th, 1853. Shortly afterward, King made the journey back to the U.S. and died within 2 days of his arrival on April 18th. So he was inaugurated March 24th and died April 18th, so less than a month. This is not his grave, however. I did want to come over and look at this. And the person that was that took over for him was John Breckinridge, which is, a popular name known now only because of his passing. I really wish they had cut the cemetery. Funds are tight, I would imagine, but there's so much here to look at and see that you could probably spend multiple days here doing what we're doing. And then you got people that do stuff that don't make sense. So I want to see what this is all about before we get over to his grave. We haven't had a good Sunday stroll through a cemetery in a while. This is Drury Fair Jones, and she passed away in August of 1878. I like how she even holds her name on the little plaque has got her name on it. And this is Sally Jones Featherston. It's very elaborate. The moss in the trees does make it perfect. It makes it fun to walk around. So he was initially buried on his property. King, of course, was an owner of individuals. He had 500 enslaved individuals on his property. And thanks to grave robbers and the such, they moved him here out of people trying to steal everything he had. Or they thought what he was buried with was worth something. He was 67 years old, so it's not like tuberculosis killed him at a young age. I mean, 67 is not old, but you know. Also, fun fact, King County in Oregon was originally named after him, and in the 80s was renamed King County, but after Martin Luther King instead of William Rufus King, because of you know, the whole slave thing. So I'm gonna come over to this marker and I'll zoom in so you can see. It says the east portion reserved for graveyard in 1829. Here are buried William Rufus King, the vice president, John Tyler Morgan, a senator, Edmund Pettus, a senator, which the bridge here is named after. That's that very historical bridge. So yeah, 1829 is when they first started burying people here.
These two right here look really neat also. It's like a book.
Yeah, the book covers, yeah. It makes you wonder what that story is.
Yeah.
So Elodie Todd Dawson was the half-sister of Mary Todd Lincoln. And if that name rings a bell, that's because that's Abraham Lincoln's wife. So Elodie here was the half-sister of Mary Todd. She had 17 full or half siblings, and she spearheaded the effort to build the Confederate monument, which when you pull in here, there's a big circle for the, you know, the monument for the Civil War. It says Nathaniel Dawson ordered the sculpture of his wife from Italy. So what we're going to walk up to was done in Italy, but when it arrived, he was dissatisfied with the hair, so he sent it back to Italy and had them redo it. And it's not like Amazon. Back then, you couldn't just put it on a UPS truck and say send back to Italy. No, like they had to put that thing back on a boat and float it across the ocean, and then do work on it, and then come back. All these magnolia leaves. So here it is. Statue came from Italy. There's her grave right there. You can hardly read it. There it is. So yeah, he didn't like the hair, so he sent it back to Italy. She was born in Kentucky and she passed away here in Selma. It was Mary's dad and her dad that's how they're halves. It's not the mother's side, it's the dad's side. Good googly moo, it is hot out here today. Nothing like summer in Alabama. Doesn't matter how long you live here, it just seems like you can never get used to it, right? It just, every year you're like, oh, it's not going to be that bad, and it's that bad every freaking year. Like, I'm glad we got to walk through and just do a little bit of a grave visit today in this historic cemetery they started burying people here in the early 1800s, 1829, I think is what it said. And so check off vice president. You always see people visiting presidential graves, but not really vice president graves. And a interesting vice president grave. So not only he didn't make it a month before he died, but he was also sworn into office in Cuba. Like, that just shows you how crazy things have got, because I couldn't imagine that would never happen today, much less none of our people would ever go to Cuba anyway, you know, because of the whole situation there. So that's a very strange thing that Congress passed a thing that was like, yeah, it's okay for him to do that. Oh, thank you God for a breeze. Elodie Todd which Abraham Lincoln's sister-in-law. You got to think, what was Abraham Lincoln thinking about her? You know, like, was she that crazy relative that you don't talk about? Like, was Mary Todd like, oh yeah, that's those Southerners, we don't really discuss that? Or I wonder what their feelings were, you know, during the Civil War times, because obviously she was here, and I think she was married to an officer that was in the Confederacy, and they probably had a plantation, you know, they had all the things, right? So I couldn't, you know, I would imagine during that time Christmas was a little weird if they got together. There's one more on the list that I got to try to find, and it's the author who wrote The 13 Ghosts and Jeffrey. Like, growing up here in the state of Alabama, that's one of those books that you just read. It's Catherine Tucker Wyndham is her name. The long name, that's why I couldn't remember it. So we're gonna ride around, and I'm gonna try to find her grave, because she's here somewhere. There is no find a grave marker for her. I have an idea, like on Find a Grave, it shows what she looks like, but there is no GPS like, hey, this is where she at. So we're gonna try to find where she at and go from there. So let's get to looking, okay? So we had to leave from that direction where Live Oak Cemetery was to come here to New Live Oak Cemetery to visit our last person, and that is Catherine Tucker Wyndham. She wrote a series of books of true, quote-unquote, ghost stories based on local folklore that had a ghost named Jeffrey in it. And Jeffrey is purported that he took up residence in their house in October of 1966. Wyndham became interested in ghost stories after this, and at first the family heard footsteps in rooms that would later be found empty, and sometimes objects would be moved. Your classic ghost story, right? There's supposedly a photo of Jeffrey that, if I can find, I'll put in right here. But I would imagine that might be tough to get a hold of. But there she is, right there. She was twice blessed. She was happy, and she knew it. So yeah, that's it. 3 graves, 2 different cemeteries today. Let me show you the little trinkets on the grave first. There's a pig flying. There's some more pigs over there. Big pig person. Big on the pigs. I don't know what the deal with the pigs are, but yeah. Nonetheless, that was a pretty good little series. We got to go to 2 different cemeteries. We got to come back to the one here in Selma, the first one we went to. There's so much history there. We hadn't even really scratched the surface. If anything, we just kicked some dirt. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I have a member section. You can support me there. I have some merch, all that stuff, right? And if you made it this far, thank you guys so much for watching. You really don't know what it means to me for you to watch these videos, and when you comment and you like and you share, you know, and you do all those things, it really, it you know, it means a lot. I know that what I'm doing, people really enjoy to watch. All those kind comments and all the stuff that you leave, all the requests and all that, it doesn't fall on deaf ears. If I don't comment, it doesn't mean that I don't see it, because I do. So until next time, you never know what you're going to find on the back roads. I'll see you guys later.